Hello and welcome to this case study presentation on the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, or the Penn Museum. As an internationally recognized repository, the Penn Museum has developed its purpose, mission, and presence in the field and is known worldwide for its activities and the wealth of knowledge housed in its collections. This case study will focus on an overview of the institution, incorporating scholarly research surrounding the contested topics of repatriation and human remains in repositories of the 21st century, and will highlight the excellent policies and steps the Penn Museum has put into place in response. Furthermore, a review not only of the policies of the institution, but also its overall strength as the leading national archival facility will be revealed through discussion. This case study will finally reflect upon areas in need of reconsideration that were made known through the research conducted. Founded in 1887, the Penn has endured, thrived, and adapted as a repository, boasting diverse archival collections from around the world. This institution encompasses numerous cultures in its archives, including historical artifacts, as well as human remains as part of its collections. The mission statement is as follows. Our mission is to be a center for inquiry and the ongoing exploration of humanity for our University of Pennsylvania, regional, national, and global communities, following ethical standards and practices. We do this by conducting research, stewarding collections, creating learning opportunities, contextualizing and telling stories, and creating experiences for people to contribute to and engage with these stories. As a result of the nature of human remains, the museum takes a serious approach to caring for and respecting these items, as evidenced by both its human remains policy and its observance of NAGPRA. This literature review will provide a look at the substantial issues involved with human remain collections in museums and discuss Penn's involvement with the ethical issues associated with human remain exhibitions. For this literature review, the following sources were consulted. Jenkins' Contesting Human Remains in Museum Collections, The Crisis of Cultural Authority, Ford, McCowan, and Keeler's The Rutledge Companion to Indigenous Repatriation, Return, Reconcile, Renew, and finally Van Beurden's The Empty Showcase Syndrome, Tough Questions about Cultural Heritage from Colonial Regions. For its own part, Penn asserts that NAGPRA has broadened American anthropology by requiring the profession to confront its colonialist past as a means of envisioning a new and more inclusive future. Now, considering these principles in practice, the policies reviewed in the paper are as follows. The Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, the Human Remains Policy, as updated in 2023, as well as the overall statement on human remains, and finally the Morton Collection Committee report pertaining to human remains. As the Penn notes, prioritizing human dignity and the wishes of descendant communities are the governing principles behind this essential institution-wide update to the Penn Museum's Human Remains Policy. Moving on to the collections practices at the museum, the collections include worldwide objects from Africa, the Americas, Asia, Oceania, ancient Egypt, the Mediterranean, and the Near East, as well as extensive photographic, film, and document archives, and a significant collection of biological specimens and remains in the Biological Anthropology Collection. The collection development policy considers all aspects of acquisition, deaccession, and collection management conceivable, and furthermore takes into account the ethical and legal ramifications that surround archives, particularly of an archaeological or anthropological nature. Finally, considering the audience of the Penn. Though it can be argued that the students and staff of the University of Pennsylvania are the primary users of the Penn Museum, its institutional mission and layout is rather all-encompassing, transcending the usual boundaries of college archive and connecting people through cross-disciplinary programming and collaborations. Students, children, researchers, and even casual museum visitors are all considered part of the museum's user base, and as such, the Penn Museum has evolved into an archive that shares its discoveries and collections in both traditional as well as groundbreaking, innovative ways. Noting the vast users for the museum, The museum also includes structured guidelines for accessing the collections for all, so that researchers may be guided along their process of accessing the collections. The final source consulted for this case study was to interview an archivist. The senior archivist, Alessandro Pizzati, at the Penn Museum was courteous enough to be a source for this case study, and an archival interview was conducted. A review of the limitations faced within the archives was considered. These amounted to interface deficiencies, curatorial direction, and archival priorities. And finally, the greatest challenges for the archives, including staff, materials, grant limitations, and once again, the interface deficiencies that caused havoc with accessing the collections for online users and staff. In conclusion, the Penn Museum has a wealth of knowledge available, as evidenced within its collections, but elements regarding processing priorities as well as interface challenges should be addressed. This will not only provide for the best user experience possible, but also ensure working databases for staff and researchers to utilize to their full potential. Regardless of these shortcomings, the Penn Museum is an exceptional institution, not only due to its collections, but to its mission to expand access to the human record worldwide. Further research to expand upon this case study could include exploring these technical apparatuses in use currently at the Penn and comparing them to mainstream archival databases and interfaces. As noted by the senior archivist at the Penn, these interfaces and databases currently used were a severe handicap both for the users as well as for the staff, and ultimately access is key even to digital materials, and this would be a priority to consider in a new case study or a continuation of this current case study. These are the references consulted for this case study and paper, and the image references for this presentation. Thank you for watching this review of the Penn Museum, and please reach out should you have any questions.